Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Reunion Part 2. And before we get into it, let me just say thank you, God, that this season is finally over. This was the last part, and I said, won't God do it?
Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
Because Bravo knew better than to give us 3 parts. Now, I do want to quickly point out that since this season was so awful, Bravo called up Mary Martha Cosby real quick and they said, hey sis, can you please come back on for season 4? Because without Jen or Mary, this show is not making it. And these 4 women know that. None of them can carry this show. And I'm glad that Bravo's making the right decision by hiring Mary back. But y'all, let's just jump right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. Now, a quick disclaimer. This second part was so sorry that I'm not going to be going over every single thing that happened because, again, not much happened. This second part felt like a waste of everybody's time. And like I had said in the last recap, Bravo was better off doing a 90-minute one-part reunion for this season of SLC. Because, again, this did not warrant 2 parts. But this second part opens up with Heather and Angie K going at it. Remember that Angie K made that dumb joke about the reason why Heather got the black eye was her and Jen were doing Barbie scissor kicks in the bedroom. Heather's annoyed. She's like, really? You think that a sex act took place? And then she says, in all these years that I've known Jen, I have never wanted her sexually, so let's not even do that. And Angie K, I said, girl, please shut up. She sounded so dumb talking about, well, people around town have come up to me saying, have you ever heard the rumors about Heather and Jen having a sexual relationship? And nobody believed it. I said, your thirst to be on this show is embarrassing. Like, I literally have secondhand embarrassment watching you open up your mouth. And then you have Lisa interjecting, trying to defend Angie K, and she's like, but Heather, I mean, when we watched that episode play back and you were on top of Jen and you were straddling her, one could assume that maybe something sexual did happen between the 2 of you. I'm just saying, I see where Angie K is coming from. I was like, Lisa, please be quiet. I was so irritated because Lisa was determined to talk during everybody's segment. I mean, Mama was fighting for some camera time at every minute, like enough. Lisa, you know good and well that nothing sexual happened between Jen and Heather. But I was so over this entire black eye segment. The fact that Heather played in our faces all season long about, well, who did it to her, and then for her to finally admit that she got blackout drunk and that's the reason why it occurred. Like, I'm just so over it. And I was really annoyed when Andy asked her the question of, well, as a woman who woke up on vacation to a black eye, wouldn't you want to find out who did it? And here goes Heather with the fake tears talking about, well, I just woke up feeling so ashamed and I also felt like I deserved what happened to me if somebody did hit me. And I was just like, okay, Heather. I am so sick and tired of Heather. I really am. And I think it's really sad that she went from fan favorite to flop because her true colors really came out this season. So Andy dismisses both Angie's and Dana. I said, thank God, because they brought absolutely nothing. And hopefully for season 4, we don't see them back. They didn't do it for me. We now get to Whitney's segment. And Whitney's segment was about 3 minutes long. Andy briefly talks about the abuse that she suffered as a child. We still don't know what exactly happened. Whitney has not been clear if it was sexual, emotional, physical. And also, Whitney was upset that quite a few of her castmates had some doubts about her story. And we all know who she's talking about is Heather. Now, Heather makes it clear that Whitney never talked to her about her childhood trauma off camera. So now you have Whitney jumping back in and she says, well, that's because when we were in Arizona, Heather called my healing journey stupid, childish, and selfish. Whitney, when Heather told you off on that trip, she was right. when she said, I understand that you're trying to heal from your past, but you are being very self-centered. We have a friend who's facing jail time. This trip was supposed to be about healing and getting us closer, and it's been all about you and your problems. And that's not fair to the group. And Heather was right when she said that to her. So of course we go into the bad weather segment, and Andy wants to know, where do Heather and Whitney stand right now in their friendship? They both say it's still not good. They still don't talk. They're still not friends. And honestly, I was over it. They both got on my nerves. They are two sides of the same coin, both very disingenuous, very phony, and very calculated. And it was hilarious seeing the both of them call each other liars. I said, well, you guys both lie. You guys both contradict yourselves all the time. If I had to pick, I would say that Whitney aggravates me more, because with Whitney, she'll sit up there, laugh, have a cute little kiki with you, and then run and tell what you said, but not what she said in the conversation. I can't stand people like that. And then on top of that, she can never own up to anything that she says. I tuned out when they brought up the whole Angie Harrington rumor again about Lisa giving BJs for jazz tickets. I said, we're still talking about this? Can we let this go? That wasn't that interesting. Andy reads another viewer question pointing out the hypocrisy with Heather. Why does she give Jen so much grace but not Whitney? Heather flat out says that the reason why she gives Jen so much grace because she holds Jen to a lower standard and she holds Whitney to a higher standard. Now, Heather, I clocked you on this a few weeks ago when you guys were on the San Diego trip. I even said I do think it's weird that you allow Jen to curse you out, threaten you, make fun of your appearance, and you still want to be her ride or die, her best friend, but you and Whitney have one argument and now you want to cut it off? I'm confused. Help me understand, what does Jen have on you for you to have this undying loyalty? Heather, you sound crazy. And the same way that you're cutting off Whitney, Jen should have been cut off. Anybody in your life needs to be held to the same standard where disrespect is not allowed. It doesn't matter who it is. Heather going on to say that Whitney and Lisa getting close really made her rethink a few things, and how their friendship set her and Whitney back, and also her and Lisa. I said, all this is a friendship triangle where Heather's jealous that Lisa and Whitney are close. Because remember, Whitney and Heather were dying to be Lisa's best friend. And it just burns Heather up that now Whitney has filled that position. But let's be really clear though. Their friendship is nothing to envy because Lisa is only befriending Whitney out of convenience. If she wasn't on the outs with Meredith, she would not be thinking about Heather or Whitney. And Whitney, you are sorely mistaken if you feel like Lisa is about to be your new best friend. So now the whole friendship break gets brought up, and now Lisa interjects yet again, and she says, the only thing I have to say about the friendship break is that Jen only brought that up because she was deflecting, because she said a lot of stuff about Heather as well, but she wanted to throw Whitney under the bus. And we all know that Jen has always been a deflector and a liar, so Lisa was being truthful about that. But at the end of the day, Whitney messed herself up. If you do want to end the friendship or have a friendship break, at least go to Heather about it directly. Don't talk about it with the other women. Just my opinion. Because it made Whitney look bad and it made the situation even worse. So now Heather says that she was angry seeing what Jen had to say about her in the hot tub, and then she goes on to say that she texted Jen that she was pissed. And I said, Heather, I don't want to hear it. Okay, you texted her that you were angry, okay, but you still flew out to New York to see her during her trial, and you're still saying that you're going to be a good friend to her and a ride or die, so you weren't that angry at what she was saying. But Heather says that she was angrier at Whitney because Whitney was saying more than Jen was. Now, when they play the tapes back, Jen and Whitney were both saying a lot of stuff about Heather, and I didn't think that Whitney was saying so much more than Jen was. And even Whitney said, all I said was, you're not receptive, and I'm tired of trying to repair something that you don't want to repair. That's not the worst thing in the world. So here goes Heather being dramatic, and she says, It just felt like a betrayal to see my day one talking about me. I said, okay, Heather. Heather really thinks she's doing something when she inserts a few little black phrases talking about my day one. I said, girl, if you don't get out of here, please. But Heather points out that Whitney's been running her mouth. She's like, she was saying a whole lot of stuff at BravoCon. Now, I was at BravoCon, as you guys know. Shout out to DirecTV. But I was at BravoCon and I was at the SLC panel and they were going at it on the panel. It was a back and forth between Heather and Whitney and then Heather and Lisa. And then Meredith and Lisa got into it as well. Then Heather points out that Whitney was dogging her out on her podcast. And I had no idea that Whitney had a podcast. I said, Mama is trying to make some money. She has the skincare line, the podcast. I said, yeah, she's working overtime since Justin is still unemployed. But anyhow, I digress. You can always tell when somebody is the fan favorite or one of Andy's favorites, and he'll call them out because they're always so surprised that he does it. Because when Andy said, Heather, I have to say, in the first 2 seasons, you were all about owning it, in the words of Lisa Rinna, and bye Rinna, I'm so glad she's gone, but anyhow, I digress. But he says, in the first 2 seasons, you were all about owning it. But this season, I felt like you were all over the place. I couldn't understand your train of thought. And even she had to admit that her train of thought this season made no sense. And then she goes on to say that she's going to do better about taking accountability and taking ownership. And I said, well, I hope so. Because you playing in our faces about your eye, that is unacceptable. So I hope that season 4, you do take some ownership for some stuff and stop doing things for a storyline. So now Andy brings up Heather's upcoming book, Bad Mormon. I tuned out. I'm so tired of Heather using this as a sob story and a crutch. I don't care anymore. 1 minute is F the church. Shout out to everybody. I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun. I gotta be good.
Then in the next breath, it's I'm just so afraid because I'm telling a story that we've all been conditioned not to tell. And now the Mormon church is suing me. 1 minute you want to be a badass. The next minute you're this, oh, I'm just still this ex-Mormon girl who has all this Mormon guilt and all this Mormon shame. Like, we're tired of it. And I'm also tired of Heather acting like she's this victim all the time. When she said, I'm just so afraid of my friends and family reading the book, I said, Heather, you talk about the Mormon church every other episode. You've been on this show for 3 years now. So why are you going to be afraid if they read the book? You've been bashing them for 3 years on national TV. They're not going to be surprised about what you say in this book. I feel like in Heather's head, things are a lot worse than what it really is. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mormon church isn't paying her any mind. They're probably saying, okay, girl, you left the church. Okay, we're happy for you. God bless. Be great. I get the impression that a lot of the folks in the Mormon community are not paying Heather any attention. But Heather goes on to say that she should have been a better friend. And then Andy wants to know, where do they stand right now? So Whitney says, well, I've heard Heather say many times that once you cross her, she's done with you. And I said, really? Is that so? Now Heather has all these standards and boundaries? She's now cutting folks off like that? Because this is the same woman who's allowed Jen to play in her face for years. And she still wants to be her friend. The husband's coming out. That was a waste. Absolutely boring. I mean, y'all, my eyes were closed during this part. That's how bored I was. And also, this segment was really about Seth and John because since Lisa and Meredith are on the outs, of course, their friendship has been affected. And now you have Andy asking that since Lisa and Meredith don't get along, is it possible for them to still be friends? So Seth says that yes, because he has a lot of friends where Meredith and their wives don't get along. If you're married, let me know down below. Would you feel slighted if you were in a situation like Meredith, Lisa, John, and Seth, where the wives are beefing, but the husbands still want to get along? Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's an awkward dynamic because knowing that we're friends, but our wives are beefing, I don't know how you separate the two, but anyhow, let me not go off on a tangent about that. But you have John saying that when the rumors came out about Lisa having an affair or performing sexual favors for Vida Tequila, he knew that it was retaliation for what Lisa said about Meredith last year. Personally, I feel like Lisa and John aren't owning that what Lisa said was so damaging and just flat out evil. I feel like they just want Meredith and Seth to get over it, and they seem to be upset at the fact that Meredith and Seth are hurt. And I don't understand why there's confusion on their part for why Meredith and Seth were shady towards them this season. It's what they deserved. Lisa went in on Meredith. It wasn't like she said, oh, Meredith gets on my nerves or F Meredith. She really went in on Meredith and her family. She called her a whore who F'd half of New York, said that Seth doesn't have a job. Do they even have money because they don't even own a home? They're always renting. Talked about their kids. Like, she really went in. So for John and Lisa to act like Meredith and Seth need to get over this, I'm confused. Like, on what planet do they need to get over what you said? So John goes on to say that despite Lisa and Meredith having their issues, he's never said anything bad about Meredith, but he was upset to see Meredith and Seth joke around about Lisa and John only having 50 cents in their bank account. So Meredith was so irritated, she jumps in and she says, now John, you guys both know that we know that you guys have more than 50 cents in your account. It was a shady joke. Obviously, the viewers know that you guys are doing well for yourselves. We all know that you're rich. Like, calm down. It was just a joke. I said, John, if your wife can say what she said about Meredith, you'll be okay if somebody jokes about you guys having 50 cents. But John, even though I'm going in on you, I do have to say it was a pleasure meeting you and Lisa at BravoCon, okay? And like I said, John is very handsome in person. The camera does not do him justice. I said, John, do you have a brother? Or a nephew? Like, let me know. And then Justin interjects and he's like, I can get you guys to get along again and be friends, even Lisa and Meredith. So they all start laughing. And a quick side note, I forgot all about Justin being there. I was like, oh, Whitney's husband's on the couch too? But now they're dismissed and we get into Jen's case. Now, right off the bat, Andy reads a viewer question directed at Meredith. And the question reads, Meredith, how do you go from saying that Jen's guilty to now standing by her side? You've done a complete 180 in your opinion. Meredith saying, well, whether she's guilty, innocent, in between, she's still a human being and we don't have the right to judge her. Now, Meredith, I like you. If I had to be honest, I would say that you are my favorite on this cast, especially out of these four. But sis, what you won't do is play in any of our faces. And the same way that I get on Heather, Whitney, Lisa, Jen, anybody, I have to be fair and I have to get on you as well because you tried it. Meredith, I was irritated because when we play the tapes back last season, you did not believe Jen. You said a lot of things about her and how you believed that she was guilty. And I was so glad that Andy and the rest of your castmates checked you on it. It doesn't make any sense how you go from she's guilty, I knew it, not surprised, to all of a sudden, well, I don't care if she's guilty, innocent, she's still a human being, I'm not the judge or jury. And it's like, no, 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 Meredith, we're not gonna play this game. We are not gonna play this game today. I too wanna know what switched in your head that you're now her biggest supporter. Because I'm sorry, those feelings don't go away overnight. You cannot tell me that all of a sudden you now wholeheartedly believe that Jen is innocent and now you want to support her? And every time somebody called you out on what you said last season, you were making excuses. And you said, well, I was going through a lot. I couldn't even process what just happened. And I called BS on that. You were reading articles. You had a lot of theories about what happened last season. And this switch up feels like, were you afraid of Jen? I don't get it. And I loved when Andy kept pointing out, Meredith, you had a lot to say about Jen last year, and she is facing 10 to 12 years in prison, and you're telling me that you don't feel any way about this? So Meredith goes on to say again that she's not the judge or the jury. And I was thinking, again, does Jen have something on you? Are you afraid of her? Does she have some tea that she's blackmailing you with? Because I'm confused at this sudden switch. I understand that people have a change of heart and nobody's God. I get it. But at the same time, it is a bit suspicious to go from she's guilty, I knew it, not surprised, to now all of a sudden, well, she's a human being and I'm by her side. I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. So Andy decides to ask all the women if Jen believed that she was innocent. So Whitney says, yeah, I think that Jen thought she was innocent because why would anybody sign up for a reality show knowing that they're scamming and they're about to be found out? I said, now Whitney, people get on these shows faking every single day. Meredith spills some tea that the feds were already investigating Jen when SLC was announced at the first BravoCon. So they had been on her for a long time. I said, Meredith, and this is the woman that you're trying to defend? Andy wants to know if Jen feels any remorse about the people that she defrauded. Lisa says that she spoke to a magazine a few months ago and she said something about the victims, and Jen texted her talking about, show me who my victims are, bitch. I would have blocked Jen right there. Girl, get off my phone. You're about to be going to prison, and you want to sit up here and curse me out about what you did? The delusions. Andy's asking Heather if she plans on visiting Jen if Jen is sent to prison. Heather says, well, I don't know. It depends to where she's sent to. But I will check up on Coach Shah and Omar and see how they're doing. And I said, And Coach Shah is Heather's type too? I said, I'm sure she will check up on Coach Shah. I say, yeah, Jen's about to find out that Heather's going to be in that house talking about, oh, hey, it's Heather Shah. So since Coach Shah has been brought up, Andy wants to know from the other women if they feel like Coach Shah knew anything and if Jen was trying to save him. So Whitney says, I mean, Coach Shah is always so sweet and always so nice. It's like he's always on, you know? And it wouldn't surprise me if he did allow her to take the fall. And I said, wow, you see how the true colors really come out? Because the way they just love Coach Shah, and now it's, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he did know something and he let her take the fall. I said, You see how people will turn on you? And then you have Heather being dramatic, and she's like, I don't know the first thing about their relationship, but I feel like it's holding on by a thread. I said, girl, you're hoping it is so that you can swoop on in and become Heather Shah. So now Lisa starts questioning Heather, and she's like, but Heather, do you think that Coach Shah knew though? Because when me and you went out for lunch, you said it yourself that you think that he knew something. And if you watch the finale episode, then you remember that final scene with Lisa and Heather. Heather was flapping her gums, talking about she believed that Coach Shah knew, and he said, okay, girl, the jig is up. Just turn yourself in. And then here you have Heather on the couch talking about, well, I don't know. I'm just saying, look, I don't know. I don't know anything. And I said, again, Heather loves to talk in circles. Her and Whitney are famous for that. Girl, say it with your chest. You had all that mouth with Lisa when you guys had that lunch, but now in front of Andy, it's, oh, well, I don't know. Look, I'm not saying anything. All I know is that, it's just a really sad situation. I said, okay, Heather. I thought it was really shady of Heather to reveal that Coach Shah and Jen were asking around for money. And I thought it was even shadier when she said, yeah, they asked me for money, but I said, no, I don't want to give my money to that. And I said, wait, Jen is one of your best friends, your ride or dies, but you didn't want to give her $2,000 for transcripts that she and Coach Shah needed? And while I can't stand Jen and what she did was so evil, if you claim to be her best friend, Heather, then be that. And again, there was no reason for you to reveal that piece of information. And she almost seemed proud at the fact that Jen and Coach asked her for money and she turned them down. I was surprised because Heather strikes me as a generous friend where if you did need money, she would give it to you. And I feel like she would give it to you, not loan it to you. So I was surprised to hear that she turned them down. So of course, Heather spills some more tea about how the Harringtons gave Jen and Coach Shah money for the transcripts. And here goes Lisa. What? Really? They asked the Harringtons? They haven't known each other that long for them to give them money. Now, I do remember watching the after show for the finale episode, and it was revealed that the Harringtons were giving Coach Shah and Jen money, and they were also letting them use their cars. So I wasn't too surprised to hear this news. And remember, the Harringtons also gave them money out of guilt because of Chris Harrington making that fake account. So Lisa interjects again and she says, Coach Shah and Jen also asked me and John for money, and we asked our counsel and they told us no, it's not a good idea because of what's happening, but I actually would have given her the money. I would have given it to her. Like, me and John really wanted to help them out. Like, we would have done it because we're really, really generous. So as the reunion is winding down, Andy's asking the final questions. He's asking Heather, why is she still standing by Jen since Jen has pled guilty? Heather says that with all that Jen's going through, it doesn't make sense for her to be mean to her as well. Like, what good does that do? And I said, it's not being mean, Heather. It's called having some compassion for the victims who were swindled out of millions of dollars and saying that what your friend did was not right. And I can't stand by this. And then Andy wants to know, why was Lisa so emotional when she and Heather went to lunch and they talked about what happened with Jen? And here goes Lisa with the fake tears and she's like, you know, I love Jen so much. And it's like, this is just really emotional for me because I just love Jen. I mean, yeah, we had our bad times, but when we had our good times, things were really good. I'm just so emotional about this whole thing, but I don't miss the bad aspects of our friendship. Is anybody else emotional about this, or is it just me? I swear, Lisa is in her own world. So now Andy wants to know from all the ladies, what was their biggest regret of the season? So Heather says that for her, it was getting drunk, and she's in therapy now, and she's recognizing past behaviors, acknowledging them, and wanting to do better in the future. Whitney says that her biggest regret of the season was not waiting until she was sober to bring up the rumors about Lisa. I said, Whitney, you did not need to wait until the reunion to tell us this. You should have figured that out the next episode that what you did was wrong. Because you caused a whole lot of confusion for no reason. And Whitney's only saying this because she got so much backlash for being messy and not owning it. But now Whitney throws some shade towards Heather and she says, and by the way, Heather, I was hoping to hear that your biggest regret this season was not mending our friendship. I truly hope that Whitney and Heather work this out because come season 4, I do not care. And I do not want to hear any more about bad weather being broken up. Their beef to me is so silly. I don't even know why they're still mad at each other. Like, I'm over it. So season 4, I need you guys to come up with something else because this beef was very uneventful, very boring, very dry, and we lost interest 10 episodes ago. Meredith says that her biggest regret was not being more careful with her words. And now it's Lisa's turn and she says, well, first of all, I don't like the word regret because I feel like we're all still learning. But I will say that I wish that I had put more boundaries up with Jen. But yeah, I'm not going to say that I regret anything because I don't regret anything. I said that is classic Lisa Barlow. My girl is not owning up to anything that she does wrong. But we end the reunion with a champagne toast and a birthday cake from Meredith and Lisa because their birthdays just passed and they all clink glasses and that's a wrap. SLC, y'all need to come correct for season 4 because what this was a mess. Y'all gave us absolutely nothing. Heather, don't you ever pull a stunt like this again, where you have us thinking that somebody assaulted you, when meanwhile back at the ranch, you just got drunk and passed out and hit your eye. Don't pull it, sis, because you tried it. I don't care what anybody says. Y'all need Mary. And I know that Mary got a good cackle at the fact that this season tanked with her not being on. But guys, that was my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. And thank you guys for sticking with me. We are officially done with SLC. But again, thank y'all so much. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.